Right. So welcome and thank you so much for everyone being here this afternoon. And before we start, maybe I think it's, and also I'm not sure if the screen has really updated yet, maybe let's go around and do a bit of introduction. Maybe Ron, would you like to start first?
Sure. Mic check, mic check. Can you guys hear me? On? Oh, here we go, here we go. Hey everybody, thanks so much for having me on. I'm Ryan Kagy, founder of thecreators.com. We're a collective of creators, founders, brands, and builders who are advancing the creator culture on Base.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for having me here. My name is Hannah and I'm the social and culture BD at Mental. If you don't know, Mental is an EVM L2 and my main target, my main focus there is bringing more and more culture-focused experiences on chain.
Hey everyone, my name's Aneri. Okay, I can't hear that it's working, but my name's Aneri. I'm on the Base team and lead product for creators and social, so helping similarly focus on culture and creators and how that can make on-chain inevitable.
Awesome. I think we have a really great panel here, especially as we talked about in the previous panel about how creators can really tap into resources that are widely available to different creators, might be experienced or just newly started to get on-chain and really get settled in, right? I mean, like, it is not just about putting your content out there, but now we're thinking about, as we move it on-chain, how could we tokenize that? How do we actually involve our community around that too? So maybe let's just get started. If you say, today there is a creator who might be already publishing on Farcaster or different platforms, but they're thinking about tokenizing it, what would you suggest them do? Like, how do they even get started thinking about that, be it on Base, on Mental, and then how would you advise them to get started?
Yeah, I think it's a decision that a lot of people perceive as really high pressure. Like, we talk to some creators that have massive followings that are like if I launch a token, this is it. My reputation is so tied to it. And what we'll do is we will encourage them to just experiment on chain, and a token can be the first thing they do, but it shouldn't always be the first thing. And I see the GM Farcaster crew here, and there are two creators that started with a podcast. They started putting their mints on chain. More people started minting it, then they started expanding from there. And I think just experimenting with different ways of tokenization, tokens as in coins say, is just one form. But I think the other thing that's really important is to set expectations with your audience. A lot of the creators that we work with that, again, have huge followings, they worry about the reputational risk of something that so far hasn't proven to be really long term. And so until those models actually start emerging where people are okay if a token just has a value for a short period of time, or okay if it's just a means to a gated access to something else, that expectation setting is really important when you have good long-term players that are trying to do something in the space while also being good faith with their fans that they've built up over a long time.
Oh, sure. I definitely agree with the idea of experimentation. I think that is very vital for creators who want to try out, new methods of discovery, finding new audiences. I think that's really important. There's two, I think, really good concepts that are currently being tested out in the Base ecosystem. One of them is Zora. They just released, the ability for any post made on Zora to automatically make its own coin. A lot of people have been experimenting with that, and we've been seeing kind of a new normal developing where instead of, insiders and KOLs and, trenches, the new alpha is creativity. The new alpha is what creators can you find and discover with your creative eye? How can you be discerning to see what is an up and coming creator that I can almost invest in their creativity, you know what I mean? And I think that's the new kind of meta that we're all circling around. Another really good product out there in the Base ecosystem is Clanker. Taking the idea of any meme, any idea, any post, product, thing that you're building, just tweeting it out, casting it out on Warpcast, or even tweeting it out using BankerBot to mint the token on Twitter. I think it's really an interesting idea that straight from the social feed, people are able to mint a token of any idea. And I think these concepts are both circling the same ultimate goal of discovering like what is the best method of doing this. And as we keep experimenting, we're going to see some really good results and people that can repeat those results and build on top of that. And that's how we get to the new normal.
I totally agree with everything that you guys just said here, like emphasizing how important it is, experimenting, just doing your own research. But one thing that I want to emphasize and highlight here is while, you can just come up with a few ideas, you can just play around, you can experiment with it. But one thing which is really, really important is to check in with your already existing community as well. So you have to listen to the people who you are actually building with, who you are actually creating and, like nurturing values with. So this is one important aspect that can, in correlation with the experimentations, like what we actually want to achieve, what are the goals, and then you can just check in with the community, like how they actually reflect to those.
I find it really helpful. I think like if we then structure that almost to say, we have the existing audience, you have to really manage the expectation. And if that is an experiment, it might work, it might not. But then having that expectation set up front is helpful, I think, not just so much about the initial way of like communication. It's not so much as a disclaimer. It's more about you show you care about your community.
It's about respect. Yeah, it's about respect.
Yeah, 100%. Just about like the expectation setting is, we know that like how the space is like moving like so quickly. Everything changes, a new platform, a new, like a tool is coming up like every single week. And one thing to be like, conscious with or conscious about is like once you set an expectation at the very beginning of, your strategy, what you want to achieve, is like you have to be extremely flexible to change it. So for example, you come up with a strategy to how you're gonna onboard your community to like a new platform, and maybe the feedback is not gonna be the same, or the results are not gonna be the same, but maybe it's gonna be good in a totally different way. So you have to just align your strategy based on like what kind of results you got.
And to add on to that, I think if you have your heart in the right place and if you just keep building, then you cannot make a mistake. If you make a mistake, you pick yourself up, you keep building, you move on. I think that's the core thing about Web3. That's the core thing about being an entrepreneur, a builder, a founder, and caring about the community that cares about the product that you're building. If you're just open and honest with your community about everything that you're doing and you build in public, then they're on board with you every step of the way.
And I love how like this is really bringing your community together on a journey and admitting that maybe at some point things don't work out, there was a mistake, but still pick yourself back up. And I think like it kind of ties into like this part where you mentioned earlier, Ryan, about right now, it is not just about having a token to engage with your existing community, but you also now see people using this as a way to discover new platforms or new creators whom you might want to, you would say you're bullish about them and you really want to stick your confidence into it, and kind of introduce that dynamic between your existing community, who you might have done a great job setting expectations, and also a new community that is coming into play about they might not have the same idea about, they were not in the journey with you so far to building this whole tokenized content. So how would you suggest them to think about or approach this in a way so the newcomers don't feel being excluded, but the existing people don't feel they are being alienated because these new guys come in,
I think that's all about community rituals, repeatable rituals that your community comes up with naturally and organically, and this will happen in any community. It's really important to listen to your community, to be active, and to be talking to them daily. And you'll see, you'll hear from your community what they want to be doing. And I think the things that are fun, the things that you discover together, you make them repeatable, and the new people coming in every day, every week, every month, they get to be part of something that they see has been already going on, and that makes them feel like they're part of something. And that's really the big thing, is like you want to make the new people feel like they're part of something, that they're valued, that, you know, the same things that you've been building towards, you know, we're doing that every week, and you can be part of next week's if you weren't part of this one. You know, something like that. Yeah.
I also think the best thing that you can do as a creator is to cultivate your original community as the type of community that's going to then onboard the next one. And I think a lot of creators put pressure on themselves to be the one voice that, you know, is responsible for everything. But like you see like Yasik with DGen, and like, I mean, a lot of token, like Higher community is another good example where they have created a early like OG community that is so loyal and like, you know, believes in that brand, that they are doing the heavy lifting of how do you actually then bridge to like more people. And I think that's like, I think of tokens as products too, and like tokens need to find product market fit, and it's like that's the same way that you do it with products, is you find your like core believers that are going to be your advocates as you expand to more user groups.
Yeah, the early adopters are the evangelists. Yep.
Yeah.
The OGs.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yes, 100%. One thing that's really, really important to keep in mind is when we are thinking about communities, there are so many layers. So we can talk about, you know, layers based on different interests or based on like when, you know, they join your community. And I think one thing that, you know, we are also trying to emphasize with artists that we are working with is like whenever we are planning a strategy, like let's figure out like the initiatives based on these different layers. So there is one incentive, you know, that you can actually reward or actually offer for your OG contributors. And there is another one which is totally different, which is for attracting and onboarding new members in your community.
I would love to maybe dive deeper a little bit more on that, because I think we're touching on how the token can actually be used quite many different ways, depending on what your objective is at that point in time. And I know that we also cover a lot of these are experimentations. They might work, they might not. But let's look at the optimistic way, right? Let's look at the best practices or your favorite so far. Hello, Mike. Okay. So what are some of the good examples you feel that works, you know, for the community, the existing community or the new community alike? And how do they try to make it sustainable so it's not going to be a short-term thing that people would later on feel a bit disappointed or let down about?
I think one thing that that I have in mind right now is if you want to achieve a long-term engagement and long-term success within your community, is you have to be really conscious and intentional about like the new initiatives that you are building. I always think about the initiatives, the token itself as a building block to like create the new opportunities on top of. So based on that, you will have a core, community from the very start, and then you are going to just slowly, gradually funnel more people into that based on, the original idea and concept you had.
I fully agree. Yeah, I think that every project or every creator, every builder, you start out with a vision, and it's when you launch your token, you are giving everyone else the ability to buy in on that vision and to share that vision with you. And if you do it right, you're sharing, every day in public, you're, sharing what you're building, sharing what you're creating, bringing your people along on that journey, then they're going to start to see that vision too. And, I think as new people come in, those new people will be talking with your existing community members, and they'll be like, look, this is the vision that we're all building towards. Do you see this vision too? Do you see that? They're like, yeah, I could see that. I can see what you guys are building towards, and it's really about how the products that you're releasing, the creator tools that you're working with, the people that you work with, the people that you collab with. All of these things are signals to your community that you are still embracing the vision that they bought into originally, and that helps them to say like, yep, they're still staying the course, and we're moving towards that future that we all believe in together.
Yeah, you mentioned the Zora coins launch, and I think that one it's really new, and I think we're all like yet to see how that evolves. But I think what's interesting about it is that content, like one piece of content, is kind of like the most atomic unit of the internet is just a post. And I think that the expectation that you set of like what is this token, it's just that content, like I think could be really, really interesting, because I think a lot of times people who are dissatisfied with creators who are launching tokens feel like the expectation misalignment was there. Like they thought that they were going to like really invest in this long-term plan, and then it doesn't plan out. And I think that like when it's very clear what you are buying a part of, I think that that can like really bring down the pressure and open a ton of potential. And I also think Flaunch has done a really good job of how they've designed their protocol to give rewards back to the community. And so, you know, no one knows how the prices change, but I think they've launched it in a model where everyone's kind of in it together, and so that you're more, you feel kind of more invested in like the success of the project too.
That's really cool. I think like as we talk about success of the project and because you mentioned that content, the post itself is the atomic unit, right? So would you say you see better successes if people or creators are tokenizing their content pieces, piece by piece at the atomic unit level, or more like as tokenizing, I think to the extent about discovering new content creator is because the creator is the token. Like, what do you think is a better model from what you have observed so far?
It's hard, and I don't know that there's objectively one better model. I do think that creator coins have been around for a long time and haven't really found market fit, and I think that there's reasons, because it's a lot of pressure for yourself to be associated with a price tag that goes up and goes down. And like, I dealt with creator burnout when I was a creator in Web 2, and I can't even imagine the pressure that would be on chain when there's a price in people's like bags that are kind of tied to you. And so I think that that's just like one reason, but I think a lot of reasons that make creator coins much more challenging. And I think the content coins concept is newer. It's not like fully new, but I think there's a lot of like pressure that's reduced. And like, you know, if we are going in the direction where everything is tokenized and you have markets for everything and there's a lot more liquidity and you're able to capture attention and trade instantly, like that type of model seems like it could be like maybe more like sustainable for a creator to like actually continue to build long term and continue providing value for its holders.
I fully agree. I think you know, the creator coins was a really good experiment. I think it's still a good experiment. It may still pan out in terms of there may be another, you know, cycle of creator coins coming that maybe builds on top of it and does it better. But I agree that you know, the current iterations of creator coins that have been out there so far, they really haven't hit that product market fit. And I think a lot of it is due to that pressure that's put on the creator if you have your coin associated with your name. So the idea of just being able to just post something out onto the social feed and then have that be tokenized, I think is really powerful, because I mean, any kind of project that you come up with, let's say if you've been cooking a project for 3 months and you're like really excited to launch it, if you launch a token alongside it in the same post, then that project itself now has its own community. So if that project has legs and it's really successful, people like it, then you'll see that community start growing right away based on that token size. People will start collecting it and they'll be like, yeah, we want more of this, or we want to see more of this universe that you created or this character that you created. And that's a really interesting concept, that now it's tied to that character, now it's tied to that universe, now it's tied to this specific product or it's this specific project. And I think that's really where I think things can be heading, where you can almost, you know, kind of invest in individual projects that creators are doing, and that gives you a lot more ability as someone who's discovering content, you know, to invest in that.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I also feel that, you know, we've been talking about a lot about the pressure and the stress that can actually come with like the social and like the artist coins here. And I feel like, as you said, you know, when, for example, a token is tied to a project or a piece, at the end of the day, everything is yours because everything is created by you. So it's actually tied to you at the same time.
Yeah.
I think this is an interesting piece, if the token itself is tied to a specific project, then how community or people who discover it might find new ways to add to it. And might be harder to imagine how I add to a creator, a person, but like, you know, the project itself. Is there some example you see might be maybe good for people here to reference about?
I haven't seen one, but I was just thinking you could create like an index of all of person's tokens, and like you're kind of like investing a little bit into all of their projects. But I think like the creator coin concept is or the content coin concept is so new, but is by nature, like everything is on chain, and people will definitely find ways to like innovate on top of it.
I think one of the good examples out there is Banker Coin. That one was launched on Clanker ecosystem, and that token, you know, it's very interesting what OX Deployer has been doing with that, where the token now has become part of the Banker terminal, where if you hold that token, you get extra features of, you know, being able to interact with this private Banker terminal that you can just tweet at or cast at, and it will execute transactions for you. And this is a basic building block, like primitive, that's like he's making that can go into so many other things. You know, it starts with, you know, tweeting at it in your social feed, but it can be integrated into many other products in the future. So I think that the idea of just launching the token around that, he's going to find many more uses for that token in the future, I think, and then also he's already seeing community spring up around, you know, how can we integrate Banker into our projects as well. So I think that's really powerful, is you'll see other builders come in and say, oh, so you've got this token and it also has this, you know, feature set that you're building. How can we work together to improve that? And you see builders come together in these kind of collective groups that they have shared values and visions, and they just naturally align. And you'll see these kind of super groups start to form, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very interesting, actually, like experiment happening here. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't seen anything like very like spectacular or something that actually like grabbed my attention so far, because I feel like there is this challenge of like people connect to people, but still we say that you know, a token which is like tied to an art piece or tied to, you know, a certain content is what we are bullishing on, and how you can actually connect these two things together. So I'm just waiting for the experiments here.
I love that. I think, well, hopefully someone, you know, sitting in this room today will come up with a really great examples and case study for us for next year. But that, I think like one more, do I have more time? Okay, so 8 minutes left. I do want to throw a little bit of a curveball question here. So we talk about content coin being quite a new concept. But content pieces as a standalone tokenized asset is also NFTs, which we have seen plenty of. Whether it is about PFPs or even very famous, I mean, world-famous painter like Yue Mingjun also have their own paintings as NFT and could be traded. How do you feel the difference are? You know, what's the difference really about a art or PFP NFT versus a content coin? Do you feel like they have different appeal to the audience, or maybe they're actually quite similar by nature?
I think that by nature, a tokenized piece of content is very much like a fractionalized NFT. So like NFTs started out, you know, being this like singular, you know, monolithic object that, you know, you have to set a certain price for, and that's can be very difficult for a creator to set their initial price for an NFT. So maybe you don't know what you should price your collection at or the individual items at, and that will kind of, you know, I would say that it does find, you know, the market will find the price, but I think the market finds a price much more quickly and easily and more liquid, with better liquidity, I guess, would be the way to say it, when it's fractionalized or when it's a content coin that's already broken up into ERC20 tokens, because that way you can say that you support the project at whatever dollar amount that you want to, and it really just depends on, like, are you among the ones who are early to discover this creator? You know, are you the ones who are early to say, yeah, that's a great creator. I believe in that creator's vision. I think that, you know, he's a really cool, you know, character. You know, she's got some really awesome environments that she's making. Any kind of thing that you can use your creative eye to see and to recognize and appreciate that creator. I think that's, like I said, that's the new alpha. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like when we are talking about coins, the first thing that comes to my mind is like, if, you know, a creator, if an artist is like dropping a coin, it's it's so much more flexible, but at the same time, it can be also really scary. In a way that, like, okay, I'm an artist, how it's going to affect my reputation, how the price is going to be, what kind of like marketing, what kind of strategy I should be doing around the coin, the initiative. But like on the other side, when we are talking about, for example, NFTs, like for example, 1/1 collections or something like that, that I feel in my mind, I look at that as a more like stable way of monetizing content, because like this is something that you can, for example, do gradually. You can, you have the time to like figure out the whole strategy. Why, for example, once you drop the coin,
Is there?
yes, it's there, and everything depends on the market and like how you actually put yourself out there.
Yeah, I definitely expect they'll both stick around and like just kind of diverge a little bit in the types of use cases. But I think for what we learned with NFTs is a lot, like there's multiple types, but for a lot of them, the most interesting activity happened in the secondaries, and that's because that's where real price discovery happens, not the creator setting the price, but the market deciding, and that's where you can actually have real liquidity. And so you're kind of just bringing that earlier into the process when you do creator coins. Content coins. I also wanted to, like, we talked about content coins and creator coins. There's also community coins, which I think are like really, really promising, and like meme coins I think would be part of this. And I think that like that has kind of always been a model that's proven out, and like a meme as like kind of the fundamental like the internet's language of like a compressed idea that's like easily shareable is always going to have staying power. And all the stuff we talked about, like creator burnout and the pressure and all the decisions that creators have, like that doesn't exist as much when you have community coins. And so, and we've seen a lot of amazing experimentation with that, but I definitely think that just like we're moving towards like tokenization of everything. In the US, tokens are legal now, and I think there'll just be a lot more experimentation. The same way that we saw experimentation on NFTs like the last 2 years, like we're gonna start seeing that like, kind of composability and new like protocols launching for tokens now.
We'd love to see if at the end of the day we see more creators which kind of instrument they go for. If that is on content coin, maybe sticking with NFT or community coins, or launching their own creator coin. I think it was all a lot of the experimentation that I'd love to see more creators and also more of the audience participates and really try to see how they can also interact with that. I think we are almost time now, but maybe for the last question, just more so like love to throw it back to you guys to say, if you're now looking at a content creator coming in, they have thought really hard about whether or not to launch a coin, and they decide to do so. What would you say, what's the best resources you know of that would be helpful to them to make sure that they, one, feel less stressful about this, because we have all acknowledged that it is tough, but two, also just like helping them along the way to guide them on the good path, to not get discouraged, to not get burned out so easily?
Well, I mean, I'm a little bit biased, but our group, The Creators, is made just for that purpose, to help any creator who's wanting to learn about how to publish on-chain. We recommend tools on Base. We recommend wallets to use. We help guide you through the process, walk you through, and answer any questions that you may have. We want creators to feel comfortable creating on-chain, and we want to create pathways, that are from different creative industries, because every creative industry may have their own different learning modes or methods, or things that really make their industry special when it comes to coming on chain. So that's what we're kind of focusing on is, depending on what type of creator you are, we're ready to help you out and to help you get on board, directly with the Base community. I think Base is the place to create.
I love the shield. Yeah, it's definitely very, very important to, find your tribe, find your community, find very, very similar people, so you can exchange, like info, like, okay, what worked for you, what didn't work for you. Gives you kind of like the feeling of a safety net when you have a lot of people around you, or just a few people around you who is very aligned. But on the other side, and here comes my shield, on the other side, once you have, a good collective of around you. The other next thing that you have to do your research on and you have to make a good decision or just experiment with is like which ecosystem you actually use, you actually build on top of. Because like we can talk about, you know, L2s, L1s, there are so many chains out there. And when we are talking about like what's the biggest like differentiator between them, one is I think the team behind it. And you have to find a chain for yourself that has a very supportive ecosystem, a very supportive team behind who can actually help you with which community you should join, like, you know, helping with the strategy, what kind of, you know, content you should put out there, like if, you know, they have ideas, like just have like a strategic partner on the way.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely like communities like that are so important because like you do need like hand-holding and you need a support community and you need people that are like helping share best practices. I see Ted in the audience and she's always been a creator that I just like really admire because she leads with curiosity. And so anytime before she tries anything new, she'll be like, hey, I'm gonna like play around with this. Like, how does this work? And I think that's what creators need to do is like lead with curiosity and that like type of authenticity is like so important for people to see. And it's like we're all doing something new here, and it's like no one expects anyone to have all the answers, but like when you're being authentic like that, and like building in the open is what we say at Base, it's like it's so important, and I think that's like the best thing that you can do.
Yeah, creators helping creators, builders helping builders, I think is the meta. You know, that's the vibe. When you see another creator, another builder out here, and you see the work that they're putting into it, offer some help. You know, reach out a hand, say, hey, how can I help you? You'll see so many people, you know, be so grateful for, you know, just providing an example of like what might work. That can be a lot, yeah.
Yeah, and the best thing is, you know, when we're talking about ecosystem, just like how, you know, Base is nurturing creators and artists, like how Mental is on the path to do the same as well. Basically, when, you know, there's a team behind an ecosystem, one thing which is like really, really essential to actually start building also like very like focused sub-communities as well. Just as you have your own community, we also, for example, launched an art initiative called Another Art, and basically the TLDR is if you're an artist, you can actually submit, you know, a conceptual idea or, you know, a piece of content, and basically based on your portfolio and, you know, all your previous works, we actually invite you to a curated group. And with that, you know, you as an ecosystem can actually connect these artists with each other and as well as with opportunities.
So important to recognize creators and artists out there, to give them the recognition they deserve, because that can change their whole lives. Yeah.
Nice. And speaking of recognition, as we draw to a close, let's give it up for our panelists today, too.